My sister seduced my husband during my cancer treatment, so I became the disease in her perfect life. I never thought my own sister could be capable of something so cruel. But life has a way of revealing the darkest parts of people when you're at your most vulnerable. My name is Laura, and this is my story, a story about betrayal, heartbreak, revenge, and ultimately, survival. It all started when I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was 34, married to my high school sweetheart, Mark, and had 2 beautiful kids. My world turned upside down in an instant. The doctor's words echoed in my mind: you need immediate treatment, chemotherapy, radiation, surgery. It's going to be a tough road. I told my family, hoping they would rally around me. I needed their support. My husband promised he'd be by my side through every step. My sister, Emily, who I always thought was my closest confidant, was there too, or so I believed. The first few weeks of treatment were brutal. I lost my hair, my strength, and sometimes my hope. Mark stayed close at first, attending doctor's appointments, helping with the kids, holding my hand through the worst nights. But something changed. One afternoon, I came home earlier than expected from the hospital. The house was quiet, too quiet. As I entered the living room, I saw Emily and Mark on the couch. At first, I thought they were comforting each other, until their eyes met mine. The look wasn't surprise or guilt. It was something colder, a secret shared. That night, I confronted Mark. He confessed. He said it happened once, that Emily seduced him, and he was weak. The betrayal crushed me deeper than any cancer diagnosis. I wanted to run away, to disappear, but I realized something. I wasn't going to let them destroy me. I decided then, if my sister wanted to ruin my life, I'd become the disease in her perfect little world. I started by quietly gathering evidence. Texts, emails, pictures. I showed Mark I wasn't going down without a fight. I spoke with a lawyer, making sure my assets and children were protected. But the real fight was about Emily. She had everything: a loving family, a successful career, a spotless reputation in our small town. I knew if I exposed her, it would shatter that perfect image. So I began to plant seeds, subtle whispers to people she trusted, hints of her betrayal. Friends started to ask questions. Her husband, oblivious, began to notice the distance. Slowly, her perfect life started to crumble. But the sweetest part? While she was busy trying to keep her world intact, I was healing. I fought cancer with everything I had, growing stronger day by day. The betrayal gave me a fire I never knew existed. Months later, Emily confronted me, tears in her eyes, begging for forgiveness. But I was no longer the broken sister. I told her, I'm not the disease here. You are. Today, I'm cancer-free, rebuilding my life with Mark's support, though our relationship is still fragile. Emily moved away, her perfect life in ruins. Betrayal hurts like cancer, but healing is even stronger. Thank you for listening to my story. If you faced betrayal or hardship, remember, you are stronger than you think. Don't let anyone be the disease in your life. Who destroyed me? I realized the true battle wasn't just the cancer ravaging my body. It was the poison my sister had injected into my life. And I was determined to fight back, in every way I could. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into my treatment with everything I had. Chemotherapy sessions were exhausting and painful, but somehow, the fire burning inside me kept me going. Every time I felt like giving up, I thought of Emily, the sister who betrayed me in my darkest hour, and that gave me strength. Mark was complicated. At first, he was full of apologies and promises. But the cracks in our marriage were deep. Trust once broken is hard to rebuild. I needed space, time, and truth. He stayed around, but I couldn't help feeling the weight of what he had done every time I looked at him. Meanwhile, Emily's perfect life began to unravel. I wasn't subtle with my reminders to those around her. I shared carefully chosen truths with mutual friends, the ones who had no idea about the betrayal but respected me. Slowly, the whispers grew louder. Her husband started to question her late nights at work, the secretive phone calls, and her sudden coldness. The woman who always had a flawless smile was now hiding a shadow of fear behind it. At family gatherings, the tension was palpable. My parents, who had once been my refuge, now tiptoed around me and Emily, trying to keep the peace but failing miserably. They wanted to believe their perfect daughter, but the evidence was impossible to ignore. One day, Emily stormed into my hospital room after a chemo session, her eyes wild with desperation. "Laura, please," she begged, "you have to stop. This is killing me. I never meant for any of this to happen." I looked at her, barely recognizing the woman who once shared my childhood dreams. "You didn't just hurt me, Emily. You tried to destroy my marriage and my family," I said quietly but firmly. "But I'm still here. Still fighting. And I won't let you win." She collapsed into tears, but I didn't let her see any more of my pain. Instead, I turned away and focused on the drip, letting her words fade into the background. Months passed, and my health slowly improved. The cancer was responding to treatment, and my body was healing. More importantly, I was reclaiming my life from the wreckage Emily left behind. Mark and I began counseling. The road to trust was long, but we were both committed. I knew forgiveness wouldn't come overnight. And maybe it never would completely, but I needed to try. Emily, meanwhile, became a ghost in our family's life. She moved away, lost many friends, and her marriage eventually fell apart. The woman who once seemed untouchable was now just a cautionary tale about betrayal and consequences. One thing this whole experience taught me is that sometimes, the people who are supposed to love you the most can hurt you the deepest. But no matter what, you have to find the strength to fight back. For yourself, for your peace, and for your future. Cancer tried to take my life, and my sister tried to take everything else. But I survived. I grew stronger. And I won't let anyone ever dim my light again. Thank you for listening to my story. If you're facing betrayal or hardship, know you're not alone, and you are stronger than you think. After Emily's betrayal, I felt like my entire world was collapsing, but not just because of the cancer. The disease was a monster I had prepared to fight, but this? This was a betrayal from the person I trusted most in my family. The sister I once confided in, laughed with, and leaned on was now the very person tearing me apart from the inside. For weeks, I sat in my hospital room, the cold sterility of the place a sharp contrast to the storm raging in my heart. Each chemo session left me drained and weak, but the weight of Emily's betrayal crushed me even more. I had always thought family was a sanctuary, a place to be safe when the world turned cruel. But Emily shattered that illusion. Mark, my husband, was torn. He came to every treatment, held my hand, whispered promises he couldn't fully keep. His guilt was obvious, but his love, muddled. I wanted to scream at him, to push him away, but somewhere beneath the betrayal was still the man I had married, the man I hoped could help me heal. Still, the trust was broken. I remember one night, lying awake, the fluorescent hospital lights buzzing faintly overhead, thinking about the times Emily and I had shared. Our childhood secrets, the late-night talks, the silly fights, all erased in an instant by her choice to betray me when I was at my most vulnerable. How could she do this? Slowly, the fight inside me grew. I decided I would not be the victim. Cancer had made my body weak, but Emily's actions awakened a fire inside that refused to be snuffed out. I had to take control back, not just for my health, but for my soul. I started documenting everything: conversations, suspicious phone calls, strange texts between Emily and Mark. It felt cold, like spying on people I once loved, but it was necessary. I was building my armor, preparing for whatever battle lay ahead. Word spread quietly among friends and family. Not the full story, that was mine to tell when I was ready, but enough to make people question Emily's shiny facade. I found allies in unexpected places: a cousin who noticed Emily's sudden absence from family events, a friend of Mark's who saw the secret meetings, even my mother, who was torn between love for both her daughters. The once untouchable Emily was beginning to crack. One afternoon, during a particularly brutal round of chemo, Emily showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked fragile, her perfect hair disheveled, eyes rimmed red with tears. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, voice trembling. I looked at her, a mix of fury and sorrow swirling inside me. "Didn't mean to hurt me?" I repeated. "You stole my husband while I was fighting for my life." "That's not a mistake, Emily. That's a choice." She dropped her gaze. "I was lonely. You were gone all the time, sick and distant. I felt invisible." "Invisible?" I spat. "You think that excuses what you did? You destroyed my family." For a moment, there was silence. Thick, heavy, suffocating. Then she whispered, "I'm sorry." But sorry wasn't enough. As my body fought cancer, my mind fought betrayal. I plunged into therapy and support groups. I needed to understand how to survive this new kind of pain. Mark and I went to counseling. Some days were filled with tears, anger, and blame. Others, with quiet moments of tentative hope. Rebuilding trust was like putting together shattered glass, impossible to make perfect, but possible to make whole again. Emily tried to reach out, texts, calls, emails, but I was distant. Every time I thought about forgiving her, my heart tightened with the memory of her betrayal. Meanwhile, Emily's life spiraled downward. Her marriage, once so glossy on the outside, was fracturing. Friends drifted away when rumors spread. At family gatherings, she was an awkward ghost, no longer the center of attention. I realized something crucial: she had lost far more than I did. One night, alone in my room after a long day of treatment, I felt a peace I hadn't known in months. I wasn't the victim. I was a survivor. The cancer was a part of my story, but it didn't define me. Neither did Emily's betrayal. I found strength in the support of friends, in the love of those who stood by me, and most importantly, in myself. This journey has been painful beyond words. But it's also taught me resilience, forgiveness, not for Emily, but for my own heart. And the true meaning of family. I still struggle. Some days, the hurt feels fresh, like a wound that won't heal. But I know I'm not alone. And maybe, just maybe, one day, I'll be able to look at Emily without anger, with only sadness for the sister I lost. For now, I'm focused on healing. On living. On being the woman who survived cancer and betrayal, and came out stronger on the other side. Thank you for listening to my story. If you're going through pain, betrayal, or illness, remember. Your strength is greater than you know. Keep fighting. Keep living. And never let anyone steal your light.